This guy campaigns for Republicans, votes against Roe versus Wade, the most keystone, cornerstone issue in the Democratic supposed political history. He voted with the Republicans.
Yeah, he sure did. Joe, in 1974, said that Roe versus Wade went too far. He said that in 1974.
He also said the other day he really likes Dick Cheney.
Yeah. And, of course, you mentioned in the 2018 election, he came up here and spoke on behalf of Fred Upton, which probably led to Dr. Matthew Longjohn losing that district race.
And
because he stumped for a Republican and got paid money for it.
$200,000 for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And this wasn't a casual support. If you have the words, he licked the guy's trousers.
Mm-hmm. And that happened not too far away from the reason why I even chose this topic as the Hammer Time segment. State Senator Kim LaSata, Republican, St. Joseph, probably one of the most racist cities in the state of Michigan. Mm-hmm. Yep. Sorry, I lived in St. Joseph. I know.
So did I.
Yeah. She came out and said that women who undergo late-term abortions should suffer. It should be painful. No, what should be painful is listening to one of your speeches.
What a nest of darkness down in Berrien County in St. Joe, Michigan. That's where the motivation came for the emergency managers. That is where the slogan, because I live there, is that the shortest bridge to Africa is between St. Joe and Benton Harbor. That's how racist they are. It is a den of Republican conservative darkness, and this woman emanated from that den. I don't know. Thank goodness I don't live there any longer. I had one black athlete on my football team. He called me one morning because the night before the KKK burnt a cross on his front yard.
Mm-hmm. I've told the story before on this show. When I worked for NBD Bank very briefly, I lived in St. Joseph. I worked in Benton Township, which is the poorest area of Michigan, worse than Detroit, by far. Occasionally, I would have to work a Saturday at a branch that was open because our branch wasn't. So on this particular third or fourth Saturday of the month, I worked the St. Joseph branch, and an African-American teller had been pulled over by the St. Joseph police just down the street, all his crime trying to get to work. This had been the third or fourth time he had been pulled over that week. The branch manager was so pissed, she called up the police chief and said, "Stop pulling over my damn tellers."
We were down on the streets of St. Joe.
True story.
This is a true story as well. Not too long after the turd snapper had been elected governor of Michigan, Snyder. I was with a group of about 20 people. One of the guys I was with stood 6'8". Okay, I'm not going to use his name. Mm-hmm. We're marching down the street surrounding Snyder. Mm-hmm. He's out in the middle of the street waving, and we have him surrounded, and we are confronting his issues. Now think about where it developed from there. Think that's before Flint. That's before the emergency managers. But we knew it was coming. The people of St. Joe were throwing stuff at us. The people of St. Joe, the guy that was 6'8", they jumped on his back. They physically attacked him. They said, "You dirty commies, go back to Kalamazoo." They thought we were from Kalamazoo. It got to the boiling point. Finally, they sent a helicopter and saved Snyder. Mm-hmm. They air vacuumed him out because it became that contentious. If people would have paid attention, they'd have stopped the idiot. Think what they would have saved. Think the lives would have been saved. The money that would have been saved.
Oh, yeah. Could we have had clean water in Flint still to this day? And one last real quick. Apparently, Democratic presidential candidate Kirsten Gillibrand has come out and has said that she wants to purge remaining pro-lifers from the Democratic Party and said it should be non-negotiable.
Wow.
I'm not going to vote for her. Bernie Sanders is going to have my vote in the primary, but you know what? I'm on board with it. Get rid of them all. While you're at it, Democrats, start purging the Republicans and the corporate-owned lackeys from your own party. Get some actual progressives in there.
Not a bad idea.
Unbelievable. And yet there's people criticizing that, people that identify as progressives. No, you have to have litmus tests in life. Sorry, that's the way it is. Everything's litmus test. If you go for employment somewhere, you're asked about your experience. Guess what? That's a litmus test.
Yeah, and I'm tired of hearing this. Well, we need a middle-of-the-road candidate, somebody that can deal with both sides.
Don't.
Middle of the road. Middle of the road is a code for a moderate conservative. That's, you talk about litmus test. We're beyond litmus test. You vote for the Iraq War. You vote against Roe versus Wade. You vote for Republicans. You voted against busing. That's the second most influential issue of the Democratic Party in the last 50 years was the busing, the segregation down in the civil rights days. Biden struck out on both accounts.
Of course
Roe versus Wade and Selma, the busing. I mean, can you seriously say that's middle of the road? If that's middle of the road, what the hell's on the side of the road?
Well, I tell you what, I have our next topic is somebody that I'm sure who identifies himself as a middle of the road Republican. State Representative Larry Inman, Traverse City, Michigan, is in deep trouble with the federal government. I have this. This is from MLive. This is written by Malachi Barrett out of Lansing. Now let's give you a little bit of background on this. So Larry Inman, State Representative Larry Inman, has been indicted by the FBI for soliciting a bribe for votes and lying to the FBI. We'll tell you all about that. But now Larry Inman's come out and has said, because there's text messages. We'll start from the beginning here. Larry Inman was actually on a radio show yesterday. It's called Michigan's Big Show. It's hosted by a guy named Michael Patrick Shields. It's syndicated across the state of Michigan. We have some audio that we're going to play here. This is the first cut. It runs just under 3 minutes. But he had Larry Inman on his show yesterday and asked him about the allegations from the federal prosecutors. Take a good listen to this.
You had a tough day yesterday, it sounds like. Well, I certainly was surprised and shocked. We had no indication whatsoever from the FBI or Department of Justice that they had any concerns about me.
They've questioned you in the past, though, correct?
Well, they were doing an inquiry.
How did they do that? How did they start that?
I have no idea.
But, I mean, you met with them?
Yes.
Did they come to your home, or did they call you in?
No, I had an interview in my home.
Uh-huh.
And I had an interview at their office. And I've had ongoing discussions since probably last August regarding the prevailing wage vote. And I was completely honest with them.
What did you say?
Well, I can't get into the details because, my attorney's got to deal with all that.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They had text messages from a union? Is that what it was?
Well, text messages can be misinterpreted. So my attorney.
Hold on a second here. Let's stop that for a second. Text messages can be misinterpreted. Yeah, let me give you the accusation. He is accused of shaking down the Michigan Regional Council of Carpenters and Millwrights for political donations so that he and, according to text, had 12 other Republicans lined up to kill the effort to get rid of Michigan's prevailing wage law. Because unions want to keep prevailing wage. What prevailing wage means is if you have a non-union contractor bid on a job, they have to pay union wages. It has to be fair play. Well, of course, last year, 2018, there was a petition circulated to put on the ballot to get rid of Michigan's prevailing wage law. Once they obtained enough signatures to place it on the ballot, the state legislature, as they are allowed to do under the Michigan State Constitution, took up the ballot proposal and passed it. And passed it by, I believe the vote was 56 to 53 in the state house. It barely passed. But anyway, so he goes to the carpenters and says, allegedly goes to the carpenters
There's an
and
indictment that
says,
says it.
there's an indictment that says it, but he has not been convicted. Therefore, he is innocent until proven guilty. Let me clarify that.
He is guilty of being a Republican.
Yeah. But he allegedly sent them a text message or sent somebody within the carpenters a text message saying, get those donations up and get the other unions involved because people are not going to go down for $5,000 and lose their staff. They'll go down for $30,000, but not $5,000. Let me continue playing this here. This is just amazing stuff.
So,
Well, you're accused of bribery charges, extortion, and lying to the FBI.
yeah, okay.
Those are scary charges.
They are, but there's no basis for those charges.
You didn't do any of those things.
No. I have had a record of public service for 22 years on a county commission, probably longer than that for gubernatorial appointments, 4 years in the Michigan House. I would never, ever compromise my integrity and honesty for money, for on a vote, or anything I would do in the duties as an elected official. So that's what I told them. So
one of the messages says that you've got 12 people willing to attempt, 12 Republicans presumably willing to attempt to block the repeal of the prevailing wage law for the right amount of money. $30,000 is mentioned there.
Well,
who are those 12 people? And was there an organized cabal to do that?
Not that I'm aware of.
How did you know there were 12?
Well,
hold on a second.
Let's
well,
hold the
there's
music here.
Well, now hold on a second. Now, if he says in his text there's 12, how can he say I don't know?
Well, not only that, Darren, the word cabal by the host is absolutely poignant. It's perfect. Mm-hmm. In other words, these 12 people say, hey, we need a little money.
Yeah.
Throw out the block power of our vote and put a price tag on it.
Yeah.
Couldn't be any clearer. But for 20 years, I've done nothing but demonstrate integrity and honesty.
Well, we'll get to that. Let's continue playing this clip here.
Contain myself with my attorney, okay? Mm-hmm. But there is an explanation on that. What I can tell you is I did not speak to one representative regarding that vote or money. So that's all I can tell you right now. And my attorney needs to do the rest. But I want to tell you that I'm coming into this show, and I'm going to be honest and open with you and to the public and the media and to my colleagues back home and in the House and in the Senate and the governor's office that I did not do any of this. And I am innocent of all these charges.
Well, of course. They're always innocent, aren't they?
He actually just said a minute ago, all I can tell you is what I just told you. But I do want to tell you, and he said one more thing, and then he goes into this spiel that he practiced in the shower in the morning before the show while he was missing his legislative responsibilities. And the thing is, all I can tell you is I'm totally innocent. This is not to be doubted that he said these things. This is empirical, right?
Yeah. But I want to go here.
The only thing missing is a court case. Why not say? What did you say? These things, Inman? Did you say?
He's saying the texts are misinterpreted.
How?
Well,
tell us
we'll find out.
What the real interpretation is. Inman.
He says there's a story to be told, and he can't tell it yet because his attorneys have told him not to tell the story.
That is the weakest. What we just heard was the most putrid excuse, cover up,
but I
lame
got more.
Republican doublespeak I've ever heard.
Jack, I've got more. I've got another example of doublespeak here. This is cut 2. This runs just over 2 minutes.
I did. I have my integrity and my honesty, and this is my life. And I've devoted public service to my life. That's why I'm not married and don't have children. You can't have children and family with what you do in my career. So, I would never, ever think of doing anything wrong as a public servant in my role as a state representative. So, we can't control what other people think, but I think, I have all the belief in the world that I will be exonerated from these charges, and there is no proof whatsoever that I did any of this. So, these these charges are completely false.